there is a story going around. Put it in a kind of view of, well, we got to understand why it is Republicans lost in New Jersey and Virginia, New York, and maybe the answer is because it's New Jersey and Virginia and New York. But now it's about, you think Democrats are having a hard time attracting Republican men or young men. Check out the problem the Republicans are having attracting young women. So is that actually the case? Tony Katz Today. Good to be with you. Find everything I do over at tonykatz.com. Amber Duke joins me right now. You know her work from the Daily Caller, where she's a senior editor. She's also the host of the show Rising at thehill.com. And Amber, it was your contemporary at the Daily Caller. Her name is Natalie Sandoval. And she wrote a piece about the election results. And it was, if you're unhappy with the election results, blame women. And that's just so great. It's always good when people are going into the the problem is suffrage conversation there. That's not what Natalie means here, but rather there's been this conversation, this Republicans have an issue with reaching out to and grabbing as voters young women. And certainly we have seen women who skew left, outrageously left, and the election of Mamdani shows that in the exit polling. Is there an issue that the Republican Party has with being able to find itself to be attractive with young women?
So I actually think that this is not so much a political problem as it is a cultural problem. Because when we look at unmarried women versus married women, this gap effectively disappears. Even among young women who are married, who have children, are far more likely to vote Republican than unmarried young women. So I think actually what we're seeing is that young women who are not married are very susceptible to the left's emotional blackmail and toxic empathy, meaning they don't have families to give their empathy to for that natural sort of mothering female instinct to kick in. So when they hear from the Democratic Party, we are going to help all of these marginalized victims, whether it's people who had no choice but to resort to crime, whether it's the transgender community, which is under attack and being killed simply for being transgender. They are very susceptible to that kind of brainwashing because they need somewhere to put all of that feminine care, right? So really, I'm not sure how Republicans can compete with that because we don't really traffic in victimhood narratives. It's really a longer term cultural question of how can we make sure that we are encouraging women to start families, to get married, to have children, to do all of those things that actually lead to a more fulfilling life.
So let's break this down a little bit because there's a lot of component pieces in that. And the first one is this idea, let's take it away out of marriage just for a second to the very idea of a relationship and relations in general. So the underlying premise of this argument, and I'm not saying it's specifically your argument, although you may agree with it, is that women, younger women, are not interested in relationships with men, or there is no capability they have to find a fulfilling relationship with men because culturally they're told men are bad.
Right. Well, if we just look at this new song that came out from Kelsey Ballerini, she's a famous country singer. I think she actually summarized the issue very, very well, which is she talks about how she put off having children and was kind of brainwashed into this idea that she needed to chase her career and fulfill all of her dreams before she became a mother. And one of the places where she says that that idea came from was Rolling Stone magazine, because naturally women who are doing this girl boss thing get celebrated consistently throughout mainstream media. They are elevated. Then look at how the media talks about the trad wife phenomenon. It's white supremacist. These women are only able to do this because their husbands are independently wealthy. They are selling a false idea of reality that no average woman could ever achieve. So when you have consistent media messages from the time you're a young girl, all over social media too, by the way, which is a cancer now for young women. They are really infected with the message that family, children, striving for that is not something to be proud of.
Talking to Amber Duke over at the Daily Caller, and she is the host of Rising at thehill.com. It's interesting you talk about the cultural messaging, right? What is it that young women and women in general are hit with over and over and over again? But you're also addressing something that I've addressed, which is the susceptibility to that argument. I am very clear. Liberal white women are the worst. I have said so numerous times. I apologize for no part of this whatsoever. It really gets into the conversation of how is one so susceptible to what is clearly not in their best interest. And I'm not talking about them specifically. There is no way that men and women's sports, boys and girls sports, is better for your daughter. It's impossible. There is no way to attack that subject that makes that possible. So I think for a lot of us, it's a question of if we're saying, well, you're bombarded with this, so therefore you feel a certain way, that is one thing. But now you have to ask the question, if you take a look at these voting results, is this voting block big enough that you must now pay attention and be able to sell your story, whether it's the Amber Duke story, the Tony Katz story, the Republican story, for me, a conservative story? How do you sell that story as this is a better option and opportunity?
I think you have to have high profile female quote unquote leaders who are making the case. One, like Kelsey Ballerini did. I went this route and it didn't work for me, and I feel dissatisfied with my choices. And then also, you have to elevate family women who can tell people, yeah, I did do this and it made my life so much better, so enriching, so fulfilling. And I don't think that the Republican Party or conservatives have that many vocal women who are actually living that lifestyle. I mean, a lot of us, I didn't get married until I was 29. And when people ask, what I think about that, I always say, well, I wish I had gotten married sooner. Like, being married is the best thing ever. But you look around at female conservative commentators, and a lot of them are not married, do not have children. So we're sort of selling this message that a lot of us are not actually living, which makes that difficult. I also think, in terms of why young women are really susceptible to this liberal message of taking care of victims, is women are also naturally conflict avoidant. And so when you have an entire party telling you that you are a racist, a fascist, a homophobe, a transphobe, if you do not agree with their policies, most women just kind of flip the switch and say, well, okay, I don't want to be that, so I will vote with you, because they don't want to have that aggressive conflict where they are having to defend themselves constantly from accusations. They would rather just do the thing so that they can avoid having that fight.
In order for that to be true, talking to Amber Duke, dailycaller.com, Catcher's the host of Rising on thehill.com. When you're not listening to my morning show, you can watch her morning show. It's allowed. The flip side to your argument is, therefore, there is something about this that is attractive to younger female voters, right? Certainly, if you argue a case of conflict avoidance, that's interesting. That's something to take in. But there also has to be something of value on the other side. Your one argument, I'm not saying it's yours specifically, the argument that you are espousing that is believed is the idea of agreement and being able to feel welcome. So that brings us to something I mentioned on Twitter. Actually, you actually wrote about. This is Jennifer Welch, this new shining star of the left. The left has finally found their Joe Rogan. She was a host on Bravo for like 2 years, doing a home renovation type of show, interior design show. She's cursing every 4 seconds, and it is not... I don't think I get to, I don't think you should judge people on how they look. I will say this is not the look I want my young sons to go for. This is angry. This is bitter. This is vicious. This is nasty. And I don't think I'm speaking out of school here. I think I'm dead on accurate. You literally wrote the headline, Democrats think reality TV has been, Jennifer Welch will save them. Good luck. Young women are attracted to this?
So here's why I think that even though she comes across as very aggressive and actually seeking conflict, why it's still conflict avoidant behavior, because the left does not break ranks. They do not have internal debates with each other. They do not condemn, right? They don't do like the ritual condemnations that the right consistently feels forced to do. So she can go on TV and criticize JD Vance for having an Indian wife while supporting President Trump. She can accuse Mike Johnson of being gay. And this is just a small smattering of some of the nasty things she said on TV. And the left goes, "You're amazing. We're going to make you a star. You're the best thing that's ever happened to the podcast world. You are the left's Joe Rogan. We love you so much." If she were doing this on the right would say, "You're batshit, lady. And like, you need help. And we need to make sure that we are either sort of getting you away from this toxic things that you're saying on TV, or we're going to push you out of the movement." And so I think when women look at the, conservative movement, and there's a lot of constant debate happening. I mean, we saw it last week with all of the Heritage and Tucker stuff. That's conflict, right? That's internal conflict. So when they're part of an in group, they don't want to be having their own group sort of pushing them and challenging them.
She called Mike Johnson, the Speaker of the House, gay.
Oh yes, repeatedly.
What's wrong?
It's one of her sticks.
What is it about the left that they all tell us that we should embrace homosexuality, we should embrace the trans culture, embrace the everything? And by the way, there's a real giant difference between homosexuality and trans culture. The L, the G, and the B should be dropping the T right away. It should have happened years ago. And now all of a sudden they utilize that as an insult. When did that happen?
It's actually incredible, and I think it actually tells you that a lot of this sort of embrace of the LGBT community, as they call it, is very facially fake. It's obviously politically motivated. They convinced these people that they were victims, and so they had to ride along with the Democratic Party. But then you see that what JD Vance called "quote unquote" normal gays are breaking more for Republicans. And so the gays are no longer useful to them. Only the T's are.
That's correct. Wait a second. Every now and again, you get hit with an answer that's just correct. That's correct. And when someone is not useful, we discuss the fact that if you're black and conservative to the left, you're really not black. And if you're gay and conservative to the left, you're really not gay. And if you're a woman and conservative to the left, you're really not a woman, which is something I would only bet dollars on that you have run across in your life. But getting back to this conversation about getting the vote, if you're advising Republicans, as we are less than a year away from the midterms, is there one step, two steps, three steps to making yourself more attractive as a candidate to younger women and what it is they're concerned with or looking at or what they're being inundated with? What is your take?
So I think one of the biggest lessons, and this is not even specific to young women, but it is something that motivated them specifically very heavily during this last election, which is what we've been talking about, the affordability issue. Um, Even the young women who maybe want to start a family one day feel like they're never going to have the opportunity to purchase a home, that they're going to have to be dual income earners, them and whoever they eventually marry. And so that just doesn't seem realistic to them. And I think that's one of the reasons why women are getting married later, why some of them, when you ask them in polls what matters most to them, they put marriage and children really low down because they are so singularly focused on achieving what they view as financial success before they do those things. Um, I think the second part of it is framing these issues of immigration and public safety and crime, which are still really resonant with voters, even a year after Trump's election, is to frame those around how they impact women. There are so many stories on the immigration front of people like Jocelyn Nungaray, Rachel Morin, Laken Riley, and on the crime front of women who have been victimized. And I think being able to elevate those stories a little bit more, and make it very specific, is perhaps an effective way to get them to care about that issue. Because when we see the difference between unmarried women and married women care about public safety because they want their kids to be safe. So for young women to care, we have to convince them that you are not safe, which is the reality in a lot of these blue cities, right? And unfortunately, some people don't really get that until they see it personally. And I think that just has to be hammered home really hard.
Amber Duke, the Daily Caller and Rising over there at thehill.com. Appreciate you taking the time to be with us. More to get to. I'm Tony Katz.